It's the age-old question, can you have too much of a good thing? And I'm beginning to think that when it comes to the DC Universe streaming service, the answer might be yes. And if I think it's too much DC, then wow, it must be way too much DC, because I love DC as much, and I think probably more, than the next person. Because after Titans spent most of its first season, and I want to be clear, I enjoyed Titans for what, not that I don't have its complaints about it, as you saw in my season 1 review, but for the most part, I had a good time with Titans, and, I gave it the benefit of the doubt and some leeway because, this is a new streaming service with new original content, right? But after Titans spent most of that first season introducing character after character with Dick Grayson as the linchpin, it's a real sense of deja vu. Heck, just plain unsatisfying. I don't know if I can continue to be so kind here, to have him doing the exact same thing all over again with Young Justice Outsiders. Or perhaps more accurately, Young Justice Encyclopedia, because that's exactly how the first 3 episodes of this new season play out. You get to see a lot of characters and locations, but it's more of a drive-by than a deep dive. I like not even sitting down and reading the encyclopedia, like flipping through it. I want to buy the encyclopedia. Let me sit down and read it. I used to own a DC encyclopedia. They're a great way to get into comics. Some people are like, oh, this is a side tangent. But a lot of times you guys ask me, I want to get into comics. How can I catch up to the story? Go buy a DK encyclopedia. But that's something else. That's not what this is supposed to be. It's also odd, in addition to that, it's odd that a lot of old favorites from the first 2 seasons of the show have been stripped of their personalities. Artemis has lost her bite, although she's still an excellent fighter. We'll get into that a little bit later. Although, don't worry, this is a non-spoiler review. Superboy is totally well-adjusted. Who asked for that? And while McGann is on the show, oh, don't get too excited, because she seems, and sometimes looks, like a totally different character. Hello? Why would you do that to a fan favorite character if you weren't going to make it at least a storyline? I mean, it just kind of sits there for the first 3 episodes, and you're like, I don't really care about what else you're talking about. What the hell happened to McGann? It's really frustrating. I mean, she's sidelined. Who doesn't ask McGann to go on a mission? And I mean, within the show, and then also if you're writing the show, who doesn't put McGann on that team? I mean, I'm sure they're going to explore it later on in the season because you have to. I don't want to give it away, but I would have liked to. It's of my primary interest. Now, to me, the most interesting things about the first 3 episodes of this new season are the politics of the Justice League, particularly how Batman comes into play. I have always been and always will be a huge Batman fan. The guy's just not only so cool, but I feel like we're in step. I get Batman. Batman does the things that I feel I would do, and I'm totally down with what he does in the first episode of this new season. But then they kind of drop it, and I'm like, what? All right, I'm sure again, I'm going to keep watching, even though I didn't love the first 3 episodes of the season, because they do plant the seeds for things that I think I would be much more interested in watching. I also like the logistics of a superhero mission, like how do you pack the gear? How do you get the gear to the secret place you need it to be? How do you put on the gear? I mean, that might seem like minutia to you, but it's the kind of stuff I really enjoy. I was like, oh, those cases are cool. I love it. I'd love a whole show about who packs the gear and what that suitcase looks like. I thought it was a lot of fun. But that's all side stuff, because the focus of the first 3 episodes, which make up one kind of complete story, or at least like the first arc of the show, they focus on the metahuman trafficking storyline, resurfaced from before. But here, the stakes are raised, and that the kids are being treated as weapons that can be sold to the highest bidder. So it's like arms dealing, illegal arms dealing, but with people. And I kind of liked that. I thought that was cool. I like it's like a real world thing, but heightened and made more comic booky. So I like it. One foot in the fantastic, one foot in reality. I like that stuff too. But also then, of course, there's the drama of what's going on in Markovia with the royal family. I did not like this at all. Largely because it was immediately apparent to me every single mystery that we were supposed to uncover. Like, not even just like the most obvious thing. Again, I don't want to give it away because again, this was a non-spoiler review, but if you've read even a few comics or watched even a few movies or seen a few TV shows, you'll know everything's plain as day. It's almost like this is like a mystery, like a children's reader mystery, like for someone who's discovering this kind of stuff for the first time. But for those of anyone who's paying to watch the DC Universe streaming service, which ain't cheap, is very well versed in this kind of storytelling. So yeah, not much of a mystery here, and it was a little frustrating and boring to have to wait for the Young Justice members to catch up, especially since some of them are supposed to be pretty darn good detectives. Now, speaking of the Bat family, another thing that I did like about the first 3 episodes was the cyber flirtation between Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, who's now Oracle. Flirtation in someone's head that no one else knows is going on, even though they're standing right next to Nightwing. That reminded me of the psychic affair between Scott Summers and Emma Frost in the X-Men comics, which was legendary and very sexy. So even though this is kind of ripping that off a little bit, I don't care because I like it so much. And again, let's talk about Artemis, who I really, really enjoyed in that fight scene that takes place in a graveyard. That's all I'm going to tell you. But she's not only a great fighter who can change tactics and weapons on a dime, but the fight choreography here is very well thought out. Then again, some bad stuff. So as you can see, I have very mixed feelings about this. It's like, I want to love it, but you're making it really hard. So let's see here. Besides the obvious mystery in Markovia, the animation, I'm curious if you guys agree about this. The animation seems a bit cheaper than before. Even the lip sync doesn't seem to work between the animation and the voiceover work. And that you would think that would be like animation 101. Like you couldn't not have that match up, but it just, I don't know, it just seemed off to me. It seemed cheaper. And then also the dead girl character that you'll see in Markovia when the team discovers her, well, she has some of the worst voiceover acting I've ever seen, or I guess heard. It was really bad. I mean, that character is obviously something's going to happen with it, but it better because she's like the worst thing on the show. Then in an effort to world build, there are cutaways to popular DC characters doing things outside of the main storyline. And fan favorites too, but it just ends up being distracting and takes up valuable time, which, by the way, was a big problem with Titans Season 1. Speaking of Titans, Young Justice Outsiders is also more violent than before, but so far hasn't improved the story. I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm just like, again, in the time you took to show we're so tough, I think maybe you could have written a better story, to be honest with you. Finally, one little thing that I did like is that at the end of each episode so far, they have this, I'll just call it a peaceful end credits. And I like that Greg Weisman and company are trying to think outside the box now that they have, I'm assuming, more creative freedom on DC Universe because, they're operating in-house. But I'm starting to suspect, after having watched these 3 episodes, that the creative freedom is more of a distraction than a benefit. So that's my review of the first 3 episodes of Young Justice Outsiders. I will definitely keep watching. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below. And of course, as always, you can check out some more episodes right now.